Imagine a cold, candlelit room in a stone manor somewhere in 14th century Europe. The wedding feast still echoes in the hall below, laughter, clinking goblets, drunken songs. But up here, in a modest bedchamber, two strangers, a young girl and an often much older man, stand awkwardly together, about to experience one of the most intimate and frightening nights of their lives. This is not the romantic fantasy we imagine today. In the medieval world, a wedding night was not about love, passion, or even choice. It was about duty, politics, power, and survival. Before we dive deeper into this hidden chapter of history, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Historian of Echoes, and ring the bell so you don't miss the untold stories of the past that still echo into our world today. Marriage in the Middle Ages was rarely about emotion. It was a legal and economic contract, arranged by families to secure alliances, transfer property, or preserve bloodlines. Many brides were as young as 12 or 13. Grooms were often in their 20s or older. The ceremony itself was public, but so was what followed. Once vows were exchanged and the dowry negotiated, there was still one step left to finalize the union: consummation. And unlike the privacy we value today, this act often took place under the scrutiny of family, servants, or the church. In noble families, it wasn't unusual for witnesses to remain just outside the door during the couple's first night together, or in some disturbing cases, even inside the room. Priests might bless the bed. Servants might help the bride undress. And after the act, the blood-stained sheets were displayed as proof of the bride's virginity. If the sheets were clean, doubts could be raised, reputations destroyed, and annulments filed. The pressure on the bride was immense. Her body was no longer hers, it was a symbol of her family's honor. For the bride, the wedding night was often terrifying. She may not have even understood what was expected of her. Education about sex was non-existent, especially for women. The church taught that pleasure was sinful, and sex was only acceptable for procreation. A young bride might feel guilt, confusion, and pain. She couldn't refuse her husband, not legally, and certainly not socially. There was no such thing as marital rape in the medieval world. Once married, a woman's consent was assumed for life. But the pressure wasn't only on the bride. Grooms were expected to prove their potency. If they failed to perform on their wedding night, they risked public humiliation and even annulment. In extreme cases, the church might demand he demonstrate his ability to perform, sometimes through graphic and humiliating tests. It was a deeply intrusive system, where the most personal moment of a couple's life became a public spectacle. Despite the church's strict moral teachings, real life was messy. Clerics preached that married couples should avoid pleasure and focus solely on reproduction. Some even recommended prayer before intercourse, and shame afterward. Yet human nature doesn't conform easily to doctrine. Many couples quietly found their own way. They laughed, learned, fought, grew, and yes, sometimes even fell in love. Women, however, bore the brunt of the long-term consequences. Repeated childbirths, often beginning in adolescence, wore down their bodies. Without reliable contraception, many women turned to herbs and folk remedies to control fertility. Some formed emotional bonds with other women in their communities, rare spaces of comfort and solidarity in a life full of obligation. Others learned to navigate their marriages with subtlety, building influence within the household while carefully managing their husband's expectations. It's important to note that not all medieval marriages were unhappy. Some couples genuinely grew to love each other. Shared hardship, raising children, managing land or a shop together, these things could create intimacy over time. But for most, that closeness came after the wedding night, not before it. Because the truth is, medieval people were not so different from us. They longed for connection, feared rejection, and struggled to balance duty with desire. The tragedy is that their society often left them little space for tenderness. So what really happened on a medieval wedding night? It was rarely soft, rarely kind, and almost never private. It was a moment of transition, often traumatic, where two individuals, usually strangers, were forced into one of life's most vulnerable experiences under the weight of tradition, surveillance, and expectation. And yet, within that pressure, some still managed to find flickers of humanity. A gentle word, a trembling hand, a shared breath in the dark. Back in that small bed, beneath scratchy wool sheets and crumbling stone walls, two people lay side by side. They may have felt fear, shame, confusion, or hope. The world demanded so much from them, yet offered so little space to simply be. And in those quiet, candlelit moments, they may have discovered that intimacy isn't about the silence or privacy we think we need. It's about the courage to be vulnerable in a world that's always watching. That, perhaps, is the real story of a medieval wedding night, not one of passion or purity, but of quiet defiance. Of choosing, in a world built on control, to love anyway. If this story moved you, don't forget to like this video, share it with others who love forgotten history, and subscribe to Historian of Echoes. Because history isn't just about what happened, it's about what it felt like to live through it.